And welcome back. Come to a comfortable cross-legged sit. It's July the 8th, 2020. Rest your wrists on your hand. No, rest your wrists on your knees, not your hands. Close your eyes and come to breathing. Nice deep belly breaths. Just let your stomach relax for the inhale and then gently squeeze the belly button back towards the spine for the exhale. So to deepen your inhale, involve your ribs and the upper part of your chest, your collarbones. Your next deep inhale, hold the inhale by keeping the ribs moving out. Don't do it by squeezing the neck. Although you do drop your head forward, it's not squeezing anything. Nice deep inhale. Now, I've already worked my way to a 30-second hold, but you can hold that for as long as you like. Do it one more time. Deep inhale. And exhale. Sort of sway side to side, rolling out or leaning out over your knees. Increase the movement with each circle that you do. And then rolling onto your knees and your ankles, shifting from one sit bone to the other. Relax your back as you do this and check in with yourself. Make sure everything is feeling okay today. After the next rotation, stop in the vertical position. And then start again, going the other direction. Again, start small and increase the range of movement. Get a nice warm up for the hips, especially lean out far and rock side to side. And after your next rotation, stop in the vertical position. Roll your shoulders. Do a gentle twist, left hand in behind, right hand on left knee, turn to the side. And release, and the same thing on the other side, left hand on the right knee, right hand behind on its fingertips, and turn. And release. Now do some seated cat-cows where you roll your chin in, round your back. Try to aim the crown of your head to the floor. And inhale, fingertips in behind, lift your collarbones. And again, hands to knees, tuck the crown of the head for the floor. Aim it to the floor. Inhale, reverse. 2 more times. Exhale, come to cat. Inhale, come to this modified cow. Last time. And release. Let's do some forward bends. We'll start with a nice easy warm-up that does the back as well as the hamstrings. The legs are straight, and then bend them. Put something beneath, maybe your fists, maybe a rolled up blanket or a towel, and then lean forward. Drape yourself over your legs. Round your back, let it soften. Make sure your belly's in contact with your thighs. If not, raise your knees higher. Eventually you can grab onto something and then get a bigger stretch in the shoulders and the back. If you feel like things are loosening, you can always lengthen your legs slightly, get more of a stretch in the hamstring. Slowly release. We'll be doing another forward bend later, so we don't have to come fully into that one. We're just slowly starting to warm up. Now let's do the reverse. Hands behind the hips. With an inhale, you're going to lift your knees, push them over your feet. Your body is going to come up. If your collarbones, if the upper part of your chest, if your shoulders are tight, the sticking point here is not going to be in the front of the body. It's not going to be in the strength of your hips. It's going to be in the strength of your shoulders. That's one of the reasons why we do plank poses, why we do other things that strengthen the shoulders. It's one of the reasons why I sneak this one in once in a while as well. Really focus on your arms pushing into the floor. You can see how I already separate my collarbones. I have not come up yet, but my upper body is already in the position that it wants to be. And then I push my hips up and forward and hold myself there. And come down. We'll repeat that. So remember, you want to get the upper body ready, and then you just move the lower body up, holding the upper body there. If the first thing you do is with a rounded back, lift your hips to try to get the upper body into the right position, it's going to be even more work. So do that first. Spread the shoulders, push down firmly into the floor. Arms are straight and strong. And now lift the hips. And come down. Good. You probably feel that in your shoulders. Even though I've done this a lot, I still do. It's very sort of awkward position to be putting a lot of weight on them, but it certainly strengthens them, and his strong shoulders is very, very useful, especially wintertime in Ottawa, shall we say, with all the ice. If you wipe out, you want to grab something, you want to land on the ground and not break a shoulder. You want to have strong muscles that support them. Good. Let's do a one-legged forward stretch. Take the left leg, stretch it long. Take the right one, and now you're going to have a couple of options again. The left, or the sole of the foot against the thigh, or if your hip is open, you can cross the ankle. Try to put the outer edge of the foot into the hip crease so that the right knee can come forward and can come down to the floor without too much bending action in the ankle. So it's not being warped up towards you. And then lean forward. Hold on to what you can find as an anchor, no matter how far away it is, and stretch out through the crown of the head, slowly bringing yourself closer using your core. Your hands are just a guide. Guide and an anchor. Try not to yank yourself down. Inhale to release. Extend both legs. Sit back. Roll through the legs. And then sit up on the left side. I'll show you both options again. So the foot against the thigh, or take that edge and really dig it in to the hip crease. We have to lean forward a little bit, even just to get it in there. And then lean forward again, grab your anchor and stretch. And inhale to release. Lean back and roll. Do an opening stretch for our hips as well. Bring the soles of your feet together and lean forward over them. It's not butterfly pose. They're right underneath your nose. And try to bring your torso forward. Rock your hips side to side if you need to get past those sticking points. Bring your chin down to land somewhere beyond your toe tips. Inhale and release. Bring your feet onto the soles, wider than the mat edges. And then again, lean forward and use your arms, wrap them underneath your legs, and then sort of lift up gently to encourage your shoulders to come down towards your knees. This might be a little bit much for your back. If it is, repeat what we've just done. And round your back and look down. If the hips are tight, this is felt all in the back because the hips aren't going anywhere. What we're trying to do is open up our hips even farther. Release, come up. If your back is tight, you can lie on your back and roll around on it. Otherwise, we're going to come onto our bellies for a moment. Come down to Sphinx pose. Release, relax your lower back. Keep your shoulders nice and broad, and now we're going to sneak in another shoulder exercise. So don't let your torso sink down any lower as you raise your right arm and stretch it up as high as you can go. The arm relatively straight, thumb is leading and lifting. And release. Come back down to normal Sphinx. Get ready for the left side. Squeeze and lift. And release. Relax your back for a moment by coming all the way down, putting your chin on your hands. And then push your way to plank. Take as much time as you want to end up on your toes and on your hands. Broaden your feet. Now we'll do an exercise. It's not strictly yoga, but it strengthens the shoulders. You're going to walk your hands closer to your feet. You may need to bend your knees in order to get there. And then you're going to walk your way back out. And we'll repeat that. I'm going to do it 5 times. You do it as many times as you like until your shoulders are really starting to feel it. You'll notice you're also getting a stretch for your hamstrings. You're getting a bit of a stretch in your calves as well. And probably a bit of a stretch in your lower back. My last time, I think. I wasn't really counting, but this must be 5. Then if you would like to, from high plank, bring your toes back together. Sink down to low plank, so the elbows stay in, and we just come down and hover over the ground. We don't land on the ground. Hold this, broad shoulders. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Let's hang out here for a moment, opening up our shoulders. If you like to, you can do this also on your knees, bringing your head down to the floor. So that's just as acceptable as a downward facing dog for now. So your shoulders get used to this. And then let's come back down to seated. Let's do it. What do I do? Doing on our backs. Yeah, let's do a core exercise on our backs. Why not? I'll do this one sideways to demonstrate. So this is an accessible core exercise that anyone can do. You start lying on the ground. You bring your knees up. Your hands are on your knees. Your arms are straight. Head is on the floor. Press your knees into your hands into your knees. Nothing moves. You're just pushing. Notice how the small of your back flattens to the floor and things start to jump and jiggle. It means your muscles are working. So release, squeeze your knees in for a moment. So if you're not joining us in the plank pose or the plank challenge, I encourage you to take a look at that as well. Strong core, so push again, hold this pose. Strong core is a handy thing to have. And release. But even if you're not doing the plank challenge, what you could do is you could lie there on the ground while we're doing plank and you do this. Do some form of core exercise. You can use the timing of the plank challenge. Like you just push, you squeeze until things get really quite strained, and then you relax. You're certainly not going to hold that pose for 5 minutes. One last time. You can intersperse it with boat poses or other kinds of core exercises that you like. And release. Tuck in your knees, round your back, roll. And since we're on our backs, let's stay on our backs for the next pose as well. So I'm going to demonstrate in seated. Well, and you're going to start this way as well. You're going to grab your foot, you're going to bring it all the way up. Hopefully that knee can come down to the floor. If it's still floating, well, gravity's going to work on it. So we're in sort of tree pose in our legs, and you just come lying down and extend your arms overhead. So it's like a tree pose, except we're lying on the ground. Here you don't have to worry about balance, but you can start squeezing that hip, getting the knee down to the floor. You can practice the hand pose. Lift the arms overhead, straighten the arms. Tuck your tailbone under gently so that the bowl of your pelvis is holding everything inside. As that knee comes out to the side, the tendency is for the pelvis to sort of tip up. You want to tip it back. Release, straighten out both legs. Now if you don't need to sit up to grab the other foot, then don't. You're going to sort of pull it in, tuck it in place, and then stretch the arms overhead. You might find one leg is a little bit tighter than the other one. You can see my left knee is not coming quite as close to the ground as the right one was. I did not know that. And release. I'm going to remain on our backs. I'm moving, but only so that I can demonstrate. We'll do a bridge pose. So lying down on the ground, bring your heels in close to your hips, hands flat on the floor. Then with an inhale, you push your knees away and just lengthen through the spine. Bring the ribs up, hips away. On the exhale, come down. We'll repeat that 3 times. And now we're going to boost it up a little bit. We're going to try to lift ourselves up, and you'll see how I then walk my feet a little closer in so I'm on my toes. I roll my shoulders under, I lift my hips, and then I get my hands underneath so that my thumbs are on the upper edge of my pelvis. And then the heels may or may not come down to the ground. Stretch the knees away from you, your ribs over top, and hold. If your arms are too long for this, mine are clearly slightly too long, a block, a yoga block underneath the sacrum works quite well too. I obviously have to work on my hip flexors a little bit so that I can get my heels down to the ground. And release. Come on down. Roll the hips side to side. Tuck your knees in. Rock around a little bit. We'll do one more pose on our backs. I'll demonstrate it now the opposite way around, because I think this is the end that you're going to want to see. So we're doing fish pose. If you've done this, you know how. You can see I lift my hips. I roll my hands, my shoulders under. And I drop my hips on my hands, pinning them there. Get my elbows right underneath my back, push into the floor, lift myself up, head falls back, and then I slide down. To get out, push into the floor with your elbows, lift your head, and just slide down. The counter pose is to put your hands behind your head and using just your arm strength, lift your head and look at your toes. Now I'm going to stay here so that you can see the neck stretches. So your whole body is relaxed, your head is lying on its back. And then I shift it over to the right. So when I turn my head to the left, the straight axis of my spine and neck are still aligned. As I turn, I have to shift my head a little bit more. You obviously don't have to do it with your hands, I'm just doing that to demonstrate. As you turn more, you shift, shift. And then when you get close, hopefully you can still hear me. I've got to talk a little louder, I guess. I'm not facing the microphone. Sort of push into the floor to get more of a stretch. Slowly release, just roll your head back, bring it back to center. And then let's go the other way. Hopefully you heard me the first time around. Now at least my face is facing the microphone. I'm going to shift my head over to the left, roll it to the right. Shift it to the left, roll it to the right. Shift a little bit more. You want to keep the straight axis from the crown of the head all the way through down the spine. When I get down, I can push gently to get even a greater twist in my neck. Go slow, go gentle. If you have neck issues, go especially slow and gentle. Slowly release, just unroll the head, shift it back to the middle. I'm going to change positions again. Maybe I could have done it from there. I'm going to grab the clock. I'm going to go to corpse pose. Palms facing up. Relax everything, release. Keep your lips closed, but your jaw falls open. Your tongue relaxes in your mouth. Roof of your mouth relaxes and lifts up. Actually feel an expansion in the soft palate while you do that. Let your larynx release and slide back down your throat. Slowly bring some feeling back to your fingers and toes. Roll your arms and your legs. Shift your hips, stretch overhead with your arms. Give yourself a big good morning stretch. And tuck in one knee. Tuck in the other one. Roll side to side. Maybe lift your chin up totally around your back. Now roll over to your right side. Then pushing with your arms up to seated. Cross your legs. You probably cross them in a way that's usual for you, so switch. Bring the other shin to the front. Sit nice and tall. Stretch the crown of the head up to the ceiling, then relax. Inhale, bring your hands together. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me. So those sort of strength exercises that I toss in once in a while, we probably can't squeeze in enough in a half hour, for that to be the only sort of strength training that you do in a day. So if you notice, when I did that plank, walk in, walk out, that was very difficult for you, or lifting the shoulder or lifting the arm in Sphinx pose, if that was difficult, if you were really straining, you might want to consider, after we've done the yoga, sticking around a little bit longer on your mat to review some of them, to do them a few more times, or maybe tomorrow when you come, before you watch the video, do those exercises, get some of the strength training in. It's very, very important to keep the upper body strong. Our lower body tends to stay strong for longer than the upper, just because we use it more often. We stand up, we sit down, we walk. The upper body, it might lift things off a shelf, it sits at a computer, but the muscles and the bones start to atrophy. And especially later on in life, this gets worse and worse. You see people's shoulders get narrower and narrower and start to droop and get weak. The yoga that we do, I think, is going to get you flexible and keep you flexible, especially if you stick with it. But I don't think I can provide enough strength training in that half hour to be the only strength training that you do. So certainly consider doing some more in addition to what you're doing with me every day. Okay? Have a nice day. We'll see you tomorrow.